Hey guys, welcome back to Listen Chump, and today we'll be talking about Greyhound.
We'll bring hell down from on high.
Greyhound is a war movie directed by Aaron Schneider. It is written by Tom Hanks and is based on the novel The Good Shepherd by Cecil Forrester. Hanks portrays the main character, Commander Krause, who must lead the destroyer and coordinate the defense of an Allied convoy crossing the Atlantic during World War II. He'll mainly face the perils of German submarines. I personally really like the movie. It's not on my top list, but I found it really good. Not everyone did though. I was pretty surprised at the sometimes harsh criticism and find it mostly unfair, so let's discuss here why I think Greyhound deserves better. Most reviewers I saw criticized it for the lack of character depth and development.
That's it. And it's a film that keeps asking us to care about characters who are being thrown into life-threatening situations, but we don't because we have no idea who any of them are.
That's where this film struggled for me, is the character development. It's lacking majorly. We learn almost nothing about Captain Krause before the start of the trek across the Atlantic.
And the story and the character development don't have much working in its favor. There's very little here.
It's a really bizarre film with zero subtext whatsoever.
Chris Tuckman, whom I usually like, was very harsh on the movie.
This is just a very dull movie, and I can understand why they decided to release it on Apple TV Plus, because it's the type of movie that you watch and you respect, and then you instantly forget about.
Honestly, I find this criticism almost completely unjustified, and it shows a lack of understanding for war movies in general. You also have, for example, David Ehrlich in IndieWire, who gave the movie a C- and wrote, "A terse and streamlined that movie that's shorter than a Sunday afternoon nap and just as exciting. Greyhound bobs across the screen like a nuanced character study that's been entombed in a 2,000-ton iron casket set adrift over the Atlantic." The film offers a handful of brief hints at the tortured hero who Forrester invented for the book, but the whole thing is far too preoccupied with staying afloat to profile the guy at the helm in any meaningful way. The sad thing here is that he's paid for writing articles. In truth, the movie is good. It is intense and well made, and in fact, there's nothing that appears on screen that I found bad or there wasn't the typical Hollywood war movie cliches like soldiers always yelling lame stuff like "We've got company" or "I didn't sign up for this shit," stuff like that. Greyhound focuses on realism. They used a real ship and restored it, and they really care about the details and procedures. Some people would find it confusing at first maybe if they don't know too much about the context, and some people I read even said the movie should have had a character who is new and used to explain everything, so to do exposition, but thankfully they didn't do that. Honestly, perhaps the only unrealistic part was when the German U-boat commander taunts the Greyhound with radio signals, which was absurd because it was a good way to be detected. It's done well in the movie though. They don't build a drama around it, so I don't make a fuss. Talking about signals, that was a part I found great too in the movie, when they were working to detect enemy submarines. Otherwise, visually I find it good. Outside shots were mostly CGI, but they kept everything grim and desaturated, so it doesn't show too much. The scenes were mostly set inside the ship, and as they showed how inhospitable it was outside, it is kinda claustrophobic. Overall, they did a bit like Das Boot, which is a German submarine film and one of the best war movies of all time. But where they differ is that, although I don't have anything negative to say about what we saw on Greyhound, Das Boot has more variety. Greyhound was relentless stress and action, while Das Boot really took its time to settle the characters, show them in dull moments, fun moments, action moments, and emotional moments. Greyhound didn't have much of that, and with barely an hour and a half, the main issue is the lack of length. There could have been more, but like I said, nothing I saw made me sigh or roll my eyes, contrarily to Hacksaw Ridge, a good war movie which really took its time to settle its characters, but some scenes were pretty poor, often cartoonish, so I didn't love it. The question of character depth and development always comes when people criticize a movie. Stuckman especially compares it to movies like Hunt for the Red October and Crimson Tide to say they were better because they were character focused, but that just shows a lack of understanding for war movies. A movie is not a war movie just because you have men in uniform. Red October and Crimson Tide are thrillers focused on character conflict. They're not relevant to Greyhound just because there are sailors on screen. There are several naval war movies you can talk about, like The Enemy Below, Run Silent, Run Deep, and of course the incredible Das Boot. Hell, even U-571 if you're not into old movies. About the characters, Commander Cross insists on showing little emotion, he rarely says thanks, he doesn't celebrate kills, and is altogether efficient. Hanks, by the way, is very good here at showing emotion without too much expression, with small nuances. Other characters try to remain as efficient and professional, but sometimes the less experienced tend to struggle. Here we're in tension, stress, hard decisions, and the movie shows us how well they manage through it. Militaries want their members to act mechanically, and here we see this ideal put to the test. Everything they are is framed in terms of how well they do their jobs under his command. And like I said, I'm really glad they didn't go all Hollywood with the cliches, one-liners, and exposition. Greyhound is a lot like Dunkirk, one of my favorite war movies, and which Stockman also criticized because of a lack of developed characters to follow. Greyhound and Dunkirk are not movies about characters, they are about situations through which your characters, who are not superheroes, just average guys from the context, must go through. You don't always need to give a full backstory and emotional investment in characters when the situation itself is so well built as to keep us riveted. Just take epic war movies like A Bridge Too Far, Tora Tora Tora, or The Longest Day. They each feature so many characters, and we don't get the time to grow attached, yet they're great. On the other hand, take Pearl Harbor. It spent most of the movie establishing the characters and their relationship, but it's incredibly cliché, the battle scenes are pretty terrible, and altogether a bad war movie. And same thing with the message. A film doesn't need a message or a subtext to be good. Greyhound cared enough about history to try and reenact it in all its glory and misery, without need for a lengthy melodrama and strife you always get nowadays in cinema. Related to that is the idea that if the events are not exceptional, and if the characters don't do enough, it's not worth doing a movie about.
Greyhound is a movie about ordinary heroism, but not everything has to be a movie. In this movie, Tom Hanks plays a captain who deals with a lot of life-threatening situations as best as possible. There's nothing terribly investing about that.
Well, first of all, it's almost like we haven't seen the same movie, but he's not alone in this view. I completely disagree. With that kind of thinking, you disqualify probably most movies, and certainly most war movies, and even classic series like Banner Brothers. I don't know, is it like a superhero movie syndrome? You guys have seen so many superhero movies that to impress you, a movie must feature superhuman stuff? Stockman gives Hacksaw Ridge as an example of incredible individual accomplishments being put on screen.
There's a reason that movies like Hacksaw Ridge get made, or Schindler's List, because it takes an extraordinary situation or an extraordinary person who did something massive in the face of all-out evil.
For the anecdote, they exaggerated the events in Hacksaw Ridge. Desmondas did his feat in several weeks, not 2 days, but that's still incredible. He didn't kick a grenade like that, which was just unnecessary, and in fact he was wounded and insisted on giving another man the stretcher, so he had to wait for hours. I don't know why they didn't include that instead in the movie. It fits so much more with his character, but anyways. I'm of the opinion that you don't need feats of individual heroism like that to make a good war movie. Wars are not won by single incredible feats like that, but rather by many individual and collective contributions which are largely forgotten. And when someone tries to make a movie about convoys which cross the Atlantic at great risk to help the war effort, we're told it's not worth it. Honestly, the sacrifices and accomplishments of ordinary soldiers are enough. No need to exaggerate, and very few today would enjoy that. Films showing us real events, even when not based on specific people, must be respectful, and for that, they must be historically accurate and realistic. Greyhound, just like Dunkirk and other war movies I love, put us with professionals who did their job through extreme situations, and for me, that's enough. Alright, I hope you liked the video. Feel free to discuss it in the comments if you agree or disagree. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you around.